After the Breach podcast. This is a very special podcast episode. It's our first live audience. And we're here, And we're not recording in our usual location, which is Jeff's office at his house. We're here in the Center for Whale Research Outreach Center. And we have Michael and Monika back with us celebrating OB's 10th anniversary. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Ahoy.
Ahoy, ahoy.
It's great to be here. I'm so glad you guys were willing to give this a shot with a live audience. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
It will be.
So we were talking a little bit before the show about the fact that I have a segment prepared.
You prepared something.
I have a segment prepared. Unless we're desperate to jump right into questions, I'd love to take you through this.
Please.
Quick. It's a brief segment.
You always have awesome segments, so...
What puzzles me, Michael, is that there's a visual component to this.
I'm going to explain the visuals. I'm going to explain
the audio
as we go.
And we can post some of these visuals in the show notes.
No, we haven't seen them yet. So
this is might change our rating.
Let's see. How do I... This is a segment I'm calling Annual Reviews in Cytology. That might sound really scientific, and it is. I have picked up some Letterboxd reviews. For those of you not familiar, Letterboxd is a social film discovery website. These reviews are for whale movies. Whale movies, by and large, that we have watched together. I will read you the review, and I want everybody here to guess what movie that review is from. These are very good reviews for very good movies.
Sweet. Can't wait.
Do folks know about this, that we do these bad whale movie nights in the summer? There are more bad whale movies than you can possibly imagine because we've been doing this since 2017. We have not run out yet. So these are movies from those evenings, I'm guessing.
Yeah, mostly.
Okay.
I'm going to start you off with an easy one, a real easy one. The one where Michael Madsen gets burdened with a glorious porpoise.
The problem is I don't remember actors' names.
Same.
Okay, so let's think this through. He's Michael Madsen. You know Michael Madsen.
This is the easy one.
Wait, is this Moby Dick 2010?
It is not.
Okay.
He's in Reservoir Dogs. He cuts off a guy's ear in Reservoir Dogs. That's Michael Madsen.
You need to tell us what he did in this movie.
He's a father figure in this movie. He's a father figure to a wayward child.
That does not narrow it down. Wait, we have somebody in the audience who knows the answer.
Free Willy? It is Free Willy.
Not a bad whale movie.
That was going to be the easy one, and y'all didn't get it.
Because it's a good whale movie.
Okay, let's try again.
Thank you, Michaela.
5 minutes into this movie, my wife begins furiously Googling killer whales. 10 minutes later, we see a group of killer whales on screen, and she says, with all the confidence of David Attenborough, that's called a pod. Fucking internet.
There goes our rating.
I thought I was allowed to curse on this one.
Oh, we can do it on any of them.
That doesn't narrow it down at all. It's any movie that shows killer whales.
Okay. So let's see. What's some good movies with killer whales in them?
You mean bad movies?
Yeah. It's killer whale focused, killer whale centric.
Orca.
Yeah.
Is it?
It is Orca the killer whale. Jeff.
That was our first bad whale movie.
1 point for Jeff. 0 points for these over here.
The two of us who are
shocked.
actually at the movies.
I'm not shocked.
Yeah.
This is also not a bad whale movie. This is a good whale movie. Okay. I thought this was going to be fun. Why am I sobbing?
Back here.
4 stars. Got another one.
Whale Rider is the guess.
It's Whale Rider.
But I told you, Michaela, you should be on the podcast.
Okay. Next one is a bad whale movie we have watched together.
Okay.
It's a threefer. The first review is a half-star review that just calls it eco-terrorism. The next one is a 1-star review that reads, this is the kind of movie I could make on Windows Movie Maker. The next one is a 1-star review that says, when did oppressed dolphin become a genre of movie?
Day of the Dolphin?
Is not Day of the Dolphin. I did not include Day of the Dolphin in this list because I believe after watching it, it is even better than any of these movies. Stone cold classic. A dolphin is trained to blow up the president of the United States.
Yeah, that's the one I immediately was thinking of, to be honest.
The last frame of the movie is just the terrorist boat blowing up from the dolphin having put the mine on their boat. And then the movie ends. It just ends.
Is this tentacles?
It is not tentacles. Again, a good movie. It's of the dolphin genre. Remember, we
Yeah,
went on this
there's
kick
thousands
of
of
just
them.
watching this kick of watching just dolphin.
Dolphin kick.
Which I just had to include a bit of a trailer for because it's just magical. I don't know if we're gonna have sound. Oh, there's no sound. Just watch the visuals for a second.
Give us the voiceover.
There's a child doing a thing. There's a child being thrown. There's a child getting a hat. Child sipping coconuts. There's a dolphin doing some spinning. There is a whole genre. Go on Amazon Prime and just search dolphin. And
You'll be set for the next 7 years.
of watching the same movie in 8 different flavors. A child goes to a magical place. A child falls in love with a dolphin.
I do remember watching this.
Yeah.
This is going to be like a lead into the next Orca Behavior Institute published paper.
On dolphins?
On
These
dolphin-
dolphins? These are bottlenose dolphins.
On bad whale movies.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we got another one. And I think this is either the last or next to last one. This film was so much better after Lucius Fox jumped in and provided the dolphin with some Wayne tech. And yes, it is Dolphin Tale. I think I have one more. Who cares about the metaphor of morality? This was from the 2010s, and every movie needed to have a bazooka.
This is Moby Dick 2010.
It is 2010 Moby Dick. Which, you don't even need sound for this one. I've just... Oh, well, here's an ad for some Chipotle. Ignore the Chipotle ad. I'll skip that as soon as I can. This podcast, as far as I know, is not sponsored by Chipotle.
But it could be. It could be. Someday. For real.
Definitely give us the voiceover for this one, since this is your favorite movie.
This is 2010 Moby Dick. There's Ahab going to a photorealistic monster whale. It's so good, y'all. It's an act you might recognize from Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Where's the voiceover, Michael?
From
This is a
Hell's Heart,
podcast.
Stab at Ye, With My Last Breath, blah blah blah. He's in some camo. He's got a big old bazooka. He's shooting this giant whale in the eye. This actor did keep this prop. I learned after watching this movie, and I respect him for that. So yeah, that's annual reviews in Cytology.
I think that wraps up the episode.
I tried so hard to find a good segment to start this show with.
So when you think of Orca Behavior Institute, which, by the way, you helped co-found,
Yeah.
the listeners may not know that,
Uh-huh.
this is what you thought of?
Well, actually, my first thing was trying to get product reviews for spiritual products that help you commune with dolphins, but I couldn't find ones that were funny enough, so I ended up with movies.
Fair enough.
I think that's going to be a recurring segment.
Yeah. Okay. I'll spend a lot of time preparing that every week.
Well, real quick before we dive into questions from the audience, do you guys want to kind of give an overview of OB in the last 10 years?
Sure. Yeah, it's hard to believe that we are at 10 years. In some ways, so much has happened and we have grown in so many ways, both seen and unforeseen, that it feels like a long time. Yet I also very clearly remember when all this began, and Michael and I and Julie and Cindy were talking about this idea of, hey, we watch whales, we know science, let's do science about whales. And that was kind of how it was born. It was kind of a beautiful thing. But the reason that we are all gathered on this particular weekend is this is 10 years to the day from our first ever field research encounter. Michael, Julie, and I were out on our first research vessel, Serenity. It was an evening on the west side of San Juan Island with J-Pod and L-Pod. It was pretty magical out there. And I remember when we were heading back to Snug Harbor after spending a couple hours with the whales, we were just like, yeah, we are doing the right thing. Yeah, this is, we're on the right track. So, yeah, I'm curious to hear your perspective, Michael. You were with OB for kind of the first 2 years and then went in a different direction and have now become the research director at Center for Whale Research. And we've returned, to collaborating with one another on some projects and stuff like that. But I haven't asked you kind of what did you originally see for OB and where we are now relative to that?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think when we started OB, for me, it was this idea of like this really kind of focused behavior research on southern residents specifically at that time, honestly. I don't know that I had like a grand vision. I think we had lots of jokes about some grand visions, but
some of which have now happened.
Some of which have now happened.
Like bad whale movie reviews.
Exactly, yeah. But I think what I've found really amazing watching OB kind of develop since I've been at the center is just seeing kind of the way that OB has moved into still doing the research, but also doing so much outreach and education, and really widening out to, study the whales that are here and working on the bigs as well. So I think it's very different in a lot of ways from what I kind of assumed. I wouldn't even say planned, because I don't think I had a plan but I kind of was like, yeah, it'll be like 4 people. We'll go out on a little boat and we'll record behavior from killer whales, from resident killer whales, and study that. And it's expanded to this incredible kind of community and outreach opportunity. And it's working on whales that there's actually, not a lot of people in this region really focusing on by kind of, being a little more bigs focused.
Yeah, the original, someone asked me too recently, what was your 10-year vision? And it was really to still exist in 10 years. We didn't really go into it with this grand plan. The main goal was, wow, wouldn't it be cool if we could fund a way to do whale research? And it started with kind of a throwback to some of the original Orca survey researchers who funded their work off of selling T-shirts. And that's why we started our first kind of T-shirt fundraiser. And I remember when we raised enough to start paying for the gas on the boat, it was like, all right.
We got it made.
We got it. But we didn't really have this longer term vision. The goal was, as you said, originally it was southern resident killer whale behavioral research, and it's taken us so many places since then.
Yeah, and it was really special this last November to kind of have our first field season together in for a really long time, doing the kinds of research we talked about doing 10 years ago.
It was a pretty special moment to be out there, because the idea of combining drones and hydrophones is something we talked about before OB was even a thing.
Yeah. And then we spent that whole kind of first couple of years, having one hydrophone in the water, recording behavior from the whales, or, recording a hydrophone from lime kiln while we're watching them, and being like, yeah, I bet there's, we had these huge, the big data sheets where there's all these details you can put down, and we would still be like, I think there's probably more going on. So being able to kind of, in a lot of ways, do exactly the kinds of things we were doing and intended to do, which is behavior and acoustics, but now in such a bigger, kind of more detailed way, and doing that together, was really, really cool.
It's pretty awesome, and we'll continue for at least this year. We've got some more field work scheduled, and hopefully beyond that.
When does this podcast come out?
In 3 weeks.
Okay, well then it's fine. So yeah, and actually we've just, I'm not allowed to share this until Monday, so we've just gotten funding for another year of that work as well. So
awesome.
At least 3 years of drone and hydrophone work, and hopefully more after that.
Yeah. Awkward pause. Wouldn't be an episode with us without an awkward
Did the
pause.
hosts want to say anything?
The hosts agree.
The hosts agree. Are you ready to hit record?
Yeah. Can you hit that?
So I've got these movie reviews.
But we have a live audience here,
We do.
and I have a feeling they might have some questions for us. So should we transition to that?
Sure.
We have any brave souls that would like to go first. I think we'd like you to kind of say your first name and where you're from. And if you're so inclined, Michael has requested your least favorite whale. I know many of you have questions prepared, so someone's got to be the brave first one.
My name is Kelly. I live in Portland, Oregon. I've taken 3 classes with OB now, Biggs 201, Art and Science of Southern Residents, and just completed Biggs 301. And one of the things I focused on in Biggs 301 was demographics of killer whales. Do you guys think the demographics of a specific whale will affect the demographics of who they hang out with? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So like their age and sex class. And
Does that affect who they, the age and sex of who they hang out with?
this is a great question. So there have been social network studies of killer whale populations kind of around the world. When we do killer whale social network studies, we tend to look at associations. So exactly what you're saying, who do they hang out with? For residents and for a lot of killer whale populations, you don't see a lot of age-sex structure in those social networks. What we find with the drone is you do find a lot of age-sex structure in the interaction networks. So not just who you're with, but who you're actually interacting with. So, within JPod, we don't find a ton of evidence of age or sex assortment. But when you look at physical contact, who's actually touching each other, they like to do that with whales of the same sex. They like to do that with whales of similar age. We haven't looked at it in detail in the bigs, but, you do get these pairs of males liking to hang out. And I wouldn't doubt that there's really similar structure there as well. Yeah, it's an interesting question. And I'm sure as we study more killer whale populations around the world, you will find more different ways that demography can affect social structure.
Yeah, it's probably different population by population,
Yeah.
I would guess.
I would say in Bremer, obviously I don't have the drone, so I can't make that, observation, but we do see similar aged males hanging out just like we see here.
Well, that's
and
probably
the
in all
females
killer whale
Well,
populations.
yes. And then females of a similar age and with calves of a similar age kind of in the same
Yeah.
groups.
Yeah, almost like little nursery groups.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Monica, do you want to talk for people who might listen to the podcast who don't know anything about the OB classes?
Yeah,
Real
so
quick.
this is one of the things that we didn't foresee, but joked about for a while. We're like, could you imagine if we started Whale University? How cool that would be! And like so many things with OB, they just kind of happen and sort of naturally coalesced. So we have started offering adult continuing education classes that are science-based, focused on giving folks an opportunity to explore careers they maybe didn't pursue or are potentially interested in pursuing. For starters, so kind of our Bigs 201 is sort of our flagship program where folks get to take a scientific project from start to finish, learn how to read and understand scientific papers, all through the lens of kind of following a specific Bigs killer whale matriline. And so it's kind of grown from there, in part because of the passion of the students, many of whom are here tonight that loved it and wanted to keep going. And so we're like, yeah, we love it too. Let's keep going and let's come up with kind of the next class. So it's been a whole lot of fun, and it's really helped build and expand on this kind of OB community that Michael referred to. Next question.
Also, I didn't get your least favorite whale. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to answer. We'll talk later.
I do want a Whale University sweatshirt.
We can make that happen. The reason we wanted to call it Whale U was because we wanted to say, will you whale you?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Amber. I'm from Snohomish, and my question's also based off of my 301 project. I had a couple CAF predictions from 2025. I think T75B and T75C are both going to have CAFs this year. I'm just curious if any of you guys have any CAF predictions for 2025.
This was homework I had at the beginning of the year. In fact, it was a episode that we recorded with Monika, and I don't think I ever did my homework and made those predictions.
I think we're going to have a new CAF in the T137s this year. Either 137B or D. One of them is due. I think there's going to be a change in that family.
I was hoping 65A.
I think she's done.
Yeah.
Right, but I was hoping she wasn't. I was hoping she would have one more.
But T65A4 might.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Michael?
I'm going to mix it up. I really think L103's got another one in her.
Well,
I hope
more
so.
than one.
So, well, a lot of these southern residents, they'll have a son and then they'll
Be done.
give up. But I think L103's got another one, and I think we're just about there for. And I really want J46 to have her first one, or well, her probable second, possible first. So yeah, I think those two whales. It's always a losing bet to bet on a southern resident to produce a calf, but I'm betting on two.
All right. Oh, don't be shy now, guys. You had tons of questions at the campsite earlier.
See, Michaela's got a hand up. This better be a Free Willy question.
Okay, it's not a Free Willy question, I promise. I'm Michaela. I work at Maya's Legacy with Sarah and Jeff, and I'm friends with Michael and Monika. And I have, my favorite whale, T123 Stanley. My least favorite whale, T123, because, or no, T20.
Wait.
T123A Stanley, I should say. My least favorite whale, T123A, because whenever I'm on the water, he's not there. And then
I like that.
when I'm not on the water.
Both favorite and least favorite.
Wow.
Okay, my question for OB is, what has been your favorite finding in all of your research over the past decade?
Ooh, I like that.
Wow.
That's a good question.
Heavy hitter, Michaela.
She earned it with the 2 correct guesses on the movie reviews.
It's true. Well, I'm very hopeful that the new favorite is going to come out of this drone hydrophone work, as I think early results are exciting, but we're not quite there yet. Wow, good question. I think one of the most interesting and kind of unexpected findings is with the initial research question that we really set out to answer, which is, was there a shift in the southern resident killer whale behavioral budget looking back in studies from the 1970s up to the present? That was kind of the initial research question Michael and I started with. And it has taken a while. It's taken about the full 10 years, but we are close to submitting that paper for publication. And there are shifts, but not the shifts that we predicted or expected based on what we were seeing. And so it's been interesting to sort of let the data do the talking rather than us trying to kind of categorize what the whales are doing. And I don't want to give away too much too early, but there's, I think, some unexpected results in that paper that will be out hopefully within the next year.
Hi, I'm Brianna. I'm from Gig Harbor, and this is kind of a question that has come up for me quite a bit, especially because I run a booth with Harbor Wild Watch down in Gig Harbor, and where I teach about orcas once a week. And I've been curious, do we have any idea on who's fathering who currently in the community? Because I know there's been a lot of debate about that, but a lot of interesting predicaments about T87 potentially fathering a lot of pigs. Do we have confirmation on that?
My understanding is we don't have any published data on any of that. There are biopsy samples that have been taken, so that DNA exists and it may have been analyzed or is in the process of being analyzed, but I don't think there's any published information on who's actually fathering whales within the Biggs killer whale community. If they're anything like residents, T87 has done incredibly well for himself. Old whales like that, I would just expect to have kids all around the population, and I don't know.
It's kind of so cool to get that information.
Yeah,
It's in the works, I think.
Yeah. It's something
'cause
Jared's talked about, and
and Lance, I think they've got the samples. Some kind of vague-ish results were hinted at the Orca Symposium earlier this year that was held in Spain, indicating that it from the whales where they were able to determine fathers, that it was a fairly small number of males within the population that were fathering the majority of the calves where they could determine the father. So potentially suggesting a similarity to the southern residents in that regard.
that also just makes sense with kind of killer whale life history and physiology, like this kind of huge sexual size dimorphism and the secondary sexual characteristics you tend to get in populations in species where males can kind of monopolize mating access either through direct competition or female choice. So it would make sense that, it's a relatively small portion of the males who are actually fathering most of the offspring.
Any predicaments on southern resident males? I'm predicting L88 as a potential.
Interesting. I think he's too pretty. I think it's I think K35's gonna have, if he doesn't already have a couple kids bouncing around, he's going to be the next kind of big guy. He's got L41 genes. He kind of looks like him a bit, and he's a big, solid southern resident. L88,
Not a pretty one.
he's handsome.
I definitely can see L88 as a pretty boy. So that
L88's
tracks.
pretty.
Yeah.
J27's pretty. I hope J26 is fathering someone outside his matriline. So Yeah, no, I don't know that we've had, super up to date data on, certainly these last few cows we don't have any genetic samples from. But my vibes based prediction would be that K35 is gonna be up there. I bet K26 had some that we didn't know about.
Well, J51 was confirmed.
Yeah.
Right now with it.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if some of the ones that we don't have DNA from might have been his. I hope they are. I hope there's more K26 out there.
Hi, I'm Dave Nyward. I'm a local journalist and author. Been a big supporter of OBI since the very first. And I was just listening to you guys talk about, both transients and residents and realizing the interactions of demographics. And it's been a sort of ongoing puzzle to me. So what is the nature of the relationship between these two populations now, as opposed to, so back in the day, generally speaking, we didn't see a lot of bigs whales when residents were the primary whale we were seeing, because residents tended to chase them out. They would get aggressive with them. I don't know, are they still doing that? And what's now that, has the absence of residents, you think, probably encouraged the presence of transients? And how do they interrelate now? Are you seeing much out there?
Yeah, so I've seen that same interaction of residents chasing bigs out within the last few years. It is still happening. I think it still comes down to group size. If we keep getting groups of 15, 20 bigs and K-pod shows up, who knows? But those interactions are still happening. There is a negative correlation, at least there was in the 2018 paper, between monthly presence of bigs and monthly presence of residents. Some of that might be sightings bias. Some of that might be seasonal differences in when they want to show up. But there's definitely, in the data, there's some sign that exactly what you're saying, that residents not being here provides the opportunity for bigs to be here. And anecdotally, if we've had, weeks and weeks of lots of bigs and suddenly they all clear out, we kind of start thinking okay, is someone going to show up in the next few days, or residents going to show up in the next few days? Maybe they've cleared out because southern residents are coming in.
And then they don't.
Sometimes they do, though, and it reinforces our.
Monika to make the prediction on Facebook.
It's difficult to parse it out because we know that they're both responding to their prey availability. So southern residents have less prey here. The bigs have so much more prey than they did a few decades ago. And so obviously that is one of the underlying factors. And so figuring out how much is related to the prey and how much is related to the presence or absence of the other ecotype is really difficult to tease out. We are still seeing, like Michael said, the same types of interactions where the bigs tend to avoid the southern residents if they detect them first. And if the southern residents detect the bigs, they will go in there and kind of chase them out. I don't know. K-pod might be okay with all their adult males. It's usually the adult males that kind of go in.
That's true. They're looking pretty tough these days.
None of those pretty boys.
No. No, they've got the weirdos.
But killer whales don't necessarily adapt super quickly to changes. Sometimes maybe they do, but sometimes they certainly don't. And I think those, the relationship between the two ecotypes is probably pretty deeply ingrained. And so if we continue to see these dramatically different group sizes, that may change over time. But for now, I think the responses are still kind of instinctual based on how they related to one another in the past.
It's a really good point. And how well the bigs are probably, when they run away, are responding to the acoustic detection of residents, right?
Yep.
How well can you judge group size from acoustic detection, and how much of a is it worth the risk that you misjudge the size that you misjudge the size of the group? Or is it a better strategy? You hear southern resident calls and you just get out of there because maybe it's all of them rolling up on you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Berger, also a Whale University student. The question I have is more about what your theories might be for what happened to Indy, T65A5, and how he's doing, his prognosis, your theories on that. and just in general, how often live strandings might happen without us knowing about them.
Sarah, do you want to kind of
Great
summarize
question.
the current Indy situation?
So Indy recently in the last couple of weeks has shown up, and months really honestly, this year has shown up with pretty significant injuries, superficial times, but pretty significant injuries all over his body. And we're not really sure what caused them. I've seen it in other killer whales about his age in the population, T49A4 coming to mind. But we were talking recently, Monika, and it sounds like potentially it could have been gear related. We know that Indy kind of gets himself into situations.
Adventures. He prefers adventures.
Yeah, adventures. Also, potentially could be rock rash, right? Could be that he stranded somewhere, came into contact, unexpectedly with that. The abrasions are pretty gnarly looking at times, but they seem to be healing as of the last couple of photos I've seen.
Yeah, they do look like they're healing quite well. He's definitely going to have some permanent indentations, I think. But I'm not concerned for his prognosis, really. Like, I don't know if Michael, you want to chime in on that front.
Well, I haven't seen super recent photos of him. I was sent photos from Joe a few weeks ago, and he looked a little skinny in those photos. I don't know if he's bounced back since then. I haven't seen recent photos. Is he kind of filled out?
Yeah,
filled back?
my impression is he's filled out a bit. Yeah.
Okay.
It's also kind of in that age, too. So a lot of times we see killer whales in this age where we're like, oh my gosh, they have peanut head or they're like skinny. And it's kind of like us. Like we go through these weird growth spurts and
males
sometimes
especially
look skinny, and it's not actually an artifact of not eating. It's,
young male
spurt or something. Yeah.
male killer whales grow long before they grow out. So they do go through those skinny phases. He had a bit of a dip, and I could see, him getting into something and, losing out on some foraging opportunities, or getting a little thin and bouncing back once he's back in action. So,
But he's been on his own a lot in Puget Sound in recent weeks, but he's also met up with others. He met up with his own matriline, and I thought he might hang with them for a bit, but only a day or two, it sounded like. The most bizarre thing to me about the abrasions is how many like parallel lines they are, and then some like perpendicular lines, which maybe suggests something gear related. I've heard the theory out there that possibly he was involved in the salmon farm incident that just became public, that in BC back in February, a lone killer whale ended up in a salmon farm, and they said the whale was free swimming the entire time, but maybe not. But we don't know if that was him or not. So lots of unknowns, and it's one of those things where, gosh, if we could just ask him a couple questions, right? How interesting that would be. But we'll probably never know for sure what he got himself into. But it was a doozy. It sure looked like.
Yeah, and we know, like, in the past, he has been entangled, right? And he was entangled, was it last year? The year before. So it's quite possible that he had another...
Yeah, I think when you have an animal that has a history of, interacting with human-made objects and getting himself into situations, and then he shows up with these strange kind of regular things, it's a reasonable hypothesis to think it was some kind of gear-related thing, or... But it, unfortunately, it is always going to be a hypothesis because we can't go and interview him and ask him what happened.
But the other piece of that question is how often do maybe some of those live strandings or those types of situations occur that we don't know about? I think certainly more
than we know about.
Than we know about for sure. We've talked about last year and T109A3 and how that was an incident that was witnessed. But you think about the number of little inlets and coves and mudflats along the entire coast throughout their range. And there's so many areas where they could make a miscalculation. And the only clue that we might have is they either don't return or they return with some types of injuries, and we can just speculate. But I'm sure it happens when we don't see it.
Yeah, there's so much area of the coast from here, throughout their range, especially north into BC, and Alaska, where there just are no people, right? There's no one there to witness this, and there's a bunch of area, like Monika said, for them to kind of get into trouble. Anything to add, Jeff?
I
sitting over there smiling.
No, I would love to have him on the podcast. I've said that many times. I'm hopeful. I think he's just on his own, getting into trouble, working on getting all this experience. And
he doesn't appear to be learning from his...
Not learning a thing.
Yeah.
Well, he's building this resume, and I think eventually he will be like the main dude and will father.
We're back to the Indy is a sexual genius thing.
Exactly. I'm doubling down on that.
Yeah, this is
This is a recurring.
this is
Moving on.
a popular.
This is Jeff's recurring segment on the podcast.
Oh, no, we're not moving on. My name is Jenny. I'm from Birch Bay. Obligatory follow-up on Rebecca's. Do you think Indy's battle scars will add to his mystique and charm or detract, since he can't seem to learn his lesson about leaving things alone?
Is this question for Jeff specifically?
I think that's a Jeff question.
I think it's just going to add to his character.
I think it very much depends on whether he reaches like age 40 or not. Like, if he goes through all this and makes it, he's going to be a very attractive partner.
He's got to at least sprout properly, you know, like he's got to get big, and if he doesn't get there,
He's like 11 years old.
I know.
Give him a little time.
What I'm saying is, if he doesn't make it to sprouting, then the mystique's gone. He's got to get there, and I think he will.
He's almost there. I mean, it's going to happen soon.
Yeah.
So you're predicting he will be charming sooner rather than later.
Yes.
Right. Sarah, you have any thoughts to add on this?
No, I have nothing to add.
And I'll go back to when we first saw him dispersed when he was 4. Who is he with?
T-18s.
The T-18s. He knew which guys to go hang out with to learn the ropes.
You think it was the males he was after?
But he was watching them picking up moves.
I don't.
The best decision was he
next
was
question.
hanging out with T-18.
Yeah.
That was the good decision.
Oh yeah. Next question.
I'm Elena from Orca's Island, where we don't see nearly enough orcas from shore, for sure. I'm curious to know what you think the next 10 years will look like for Obi.
That's a really good question. Unfortunately, we haven't put as much thought into that looking forward compared to what we did at the beginning either. It's just we just kind of have these projects we want to work on and places we want to go and sort of let things unfold as they will. I certainly think the growth of the Whale University component is going to continue, and it has really become kind of a strength, and I think something that sets us apart from what other organizations are doing, and using that to help fuel and continue our research and do really true community science, I think, is a really exciting direction that we're heading in. One of the really lovely things about being a small organization is that we've been able to pivot when we need to or when we want to topics that come up. So we started as being really Southern resident focused and have pivoted, to focusing a lot of time and effort on big killer whales when that's kind of, who's here and who's available to us. And then, it's kind of serendipitous things just sort of happen where we originally were offering a class for high school students, and so many adults wanted to take the class that we were like, oh, let's try an adult version of this. And that's kind of the seed that has, grown into the Whale University program. And so in a lot of ways, we're sort of open to those possibilities as they develop. But one of the things that I'm most excited about is now that we are working on finishing sort of that initial study looking at Southern resident behavior and a comparison, is expanding that to look at differences in behavioral budget between populations, adding in for sure the big killer whales, but we've also been spending time with northern resident killer whales up in Johnstone Strait. Sarah's been down in Bremer Bay collecting the same type of behavioral data there. And so I think it will open up some really cool opportunities to do some kind of cross-population comparison. So from a research perspective, that's sort of where we're headed. And other than that, we'll just have to kind of see how things unfold, I think.
Hi, I'm Vanessa from Bainbridge Island, Washington. And my least favorite matroline are the T23Cs, who made a rare visit down to Puget Sound and ghosted me multiple times. So after diving into our Bigs 301 data, I feel like many of us walked away with more questions than answers. So if you guys could have the answer to any one Orca mystery, what would you pick?
This is going to be a long silence to edit out here.
Yeah, it's going to be one I have to think.
Doesn't have to be number one. It could be like top 10.
Okay, well, one of the ones that I would want to know, what happened between T77A and his family?
I vote yes on that.
Can you explain why you think something happened?
Well, I don't know that anything happened, right? But T77A was this male who traveled separately on his own and also traveled with another male, T49C, for a long time and met up with other males, and he's been MIA for a couple years now. But I, in all my years out here, never saw him with his family. So mom and siblings, and one instance where he got within 200 meters, 300 meters of them, T65A2 actually came out to meet him, and then they parted ways. T65A2 went back to the group, and T77A took off and never met up with them. So, and we don't know, maybe he did meet up with them and we've never seen it, but I have never personally seen them all together, ever. So,
first of all, Vanessa, if you're leaving a killer whale research project with more questions than answers, you're doing it right.
Yes.
I think we can all agree on that. For me, I really want to know how they tell and keep time and schedules with one another. Because if you think of all the regions on the coast, there are so many places for whales to go, yet we see families reunite, or certain whales split apart and come back together, or certain groups meet up at the same time of year and that sort of thing. And how are they tracking that? How are they doing that? I would love to know.
Yeah. Oh man, I have too many. Easy low-hanging fruit. We're never going to get it, but I would love a definitive age on J2. I would love to just know her actual year of birth. We have a big range of estimates based on a few different things, and we're just never going to actually get there. There's always going to be this huge uncertainty. I'd also, kind of going off the time thing, I want to know how we know that there's leadership, that they follow around their moms to find, food. There seems to be this kind of transmission of where to find stuff and where to go. I want to know how they communicate that. Is it literally just you follow a whale to a place, they show you there's food there, and then you know? Or do whales meet up and somehow through this set of 25, discrete calls communicate something about where they need to go to find food? Which I guess is just saying I want to know what they're saying. But yeah, there's way too many mysteries, and I don't think we're ever going to get either answers really to either of those, if I'm honest.
Jeff's is T65A5 sexual genius.
Well, I mean, that's the obvious is what's going through his mind. How is he perceived in with all the different whales that he meets up with? Is it a big eye roll, oh, I got Indy with me again, or is it oh, cool? Also, so I have two more. One, also very quickly, is where is T18 and when is she coming back? And
she might be over the Rainbow Bridge.
Might be, but she was there before.
But she'll still be back.
She'll still be, yeah. She
can't stop her.
She was there before. But really, if I could see anything or figure anything out, I would love to see the interaction between the southern residents, the northern residents, the bigs, humpbacks. What was it like here, 5,000 years ago, or really before any human impact or in any large scale in this region, and just to stand there and be able to see what it looked like before any kind of human impact would. If I could go back in time and go anywhere and do anything, that's what I would do.
That's a really good one.
That is a good one.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Grace from Seattle, and my question is around the recent, advances in gene editing technology. And, now we're seeing that humans are being treated for genetic diseases with CRISPR. So what role, if any, do you think gene editing technology may play in the future in marine conservation in the Salish Sea? And could you see any possible situation in which that might actually be applied in orcas or other whales?
Honestly, no. I could see CRISPR having a role in certain conservation things where you can do introductions of, specific animals, and you can take them out of their environment, you can edit their genome, you can put them back, and you get rid of some genetic disease, or you make them resilient to some parasite. I don't see it really being a thing for southern residents. I mean, we have a hard enough time just giving them antibiotics. So Yeah, it's, there's all of these great technologies that have their place. Genetic rescue has been a thing in conservation now for many, many years, where you actually increase genetic diversity, in a captive setting, and then you introduce those animals to a genetically depleted population, and that has had really great success with like black-footed ferrets. It was a big success, but I don't really see I don't really think there's going to be logistically an efficacious way to apply that in a wide-ranging population of highly mobile and, when they want to be, highly cryptic marine mammals.
Hi, I'm Ibrahim from New York City, where we don't have any killer whales. I was curious how the use of tools like drones and hydrophones improved field research for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, the drones have really kind of opened up this whole new world, being able to get that aerial perspective on their behavior and not just kind of guess based on, what we're seeing from the boat, but actually see in real time and then later from a recording what was happening between these pairs of individuals.
Yeah, I mean, 20 years ago, it was helicopter or airplane to get that type of view. So it's really revolutionized the ability to have that perspective.
And it's kind of been recognized that that's a good perspective for like even further back than that. There's this old paper from the 80s where they tied a camera onto a balloon and had that towed behind a boat.
Actually, can we do that?
Yeah. I've actually thought about putting a balloon on the drone in case it runs out of battery and we can keep it float.
Brilliant.
But anyways, yeah, this aerial perspective is, especially in water like this, where actually an underwater perspective doesn't get you that much. You can't see that far underwater. The aerial perspective is just about as good as you can get at actually seeing what's going on. And yeah, and then pairing that with hydrophones, we're actually able to then listen.
Yeah. Hydrophones are a technology that we've had for quite a long time, but I think are going to be kind of newly innovative in the pairing with the drones and being able to figure out not only what are we seeing the whales doing, but what acoustic signals are they using when we're observing those behaviors. And I don't think we're ever going to know what they're saying, but we will hopefully get some insights into how their communication system works that haven't been possible without that behavioral perspective.
And I'm Yossi from Kirkland, Washington. I want to know, in the past 10 years, what behavioral change have you seen? If there is any certain time of the 10 years and what they are?
Well, the most dramatic change, I think, has been in the presence of big killer whales. When we started the Orca Behavior Institute, I mentioned our very first research encounter was with southern residents. We had dozens of encounters with southern residents over the next 3 or 4 months, and we only encountered big killer whales 3 times throughout the summer of 2015. And that ratio has basically flipped on its head, where we are only seeing southern residents a small handful of times throughout the year here on the west side of San Juan Island, whereas big killer whales just continue to go up and up and up in presence every single year. We're having like 5 times as many encounters with big killer whales over the summer compared to southern resident encounters. And I certainly could not have predicted that it would change this fast, this much. But that's sort of a habitat usage thing, but that's been the most dramatic shift in behavior.
And I feel like along with that, the kind of secondary bit, at least from is just like the increased occurrence of these big multi-matriline groups as well, which have always been, big multi-matriline groups, but it just feels like we're seeing them more and more often.
Sure.
Which...
Yeah, and we're seeing not just 15 big killer whales, but sometimes over 40 big killer whales in the same vicinity together. And you guys can probably talk about, what that's been like on the water.
Yeah, I mean, it's really changed even in the last 5 years, I would say, where, average group size that we were encountering would be, 4 or 5 killer whales. It'd usually be a single matriline. And there's days now when we go out and it's like you find a big group of whales and then they just keep multiplying there. But they're obviously, I think we were out last year and had an encounter, and I was able to identify 38 on scene, and I got home and found there were 41 there. So it's just, and I never would have expected to have seen a group of big killer whales that large.
I also think, and I think it continues to change, and I've noticed this, at least anecdotally this year, we have so many days where there are so many different groups, not necessarily together, but spread throughout the entire area, where we're getting sightings even late in the day of matrolines or multiple matrolines showing up that nobody had seen all day. And there are so many different groups out there on almost a daily basis.
And I would say that also in some part speaks to the strength of the network, the strength of a sightings network, and how technology has kind of like both helped and hindered us in that regard. But we really are more connected than ever with people up and down the coast and in all communities who are out on the water for various reasons and seeing whales and sharing their photos or videos. And we're, suddenly realizing that T49A1 and T49 are down in Yaquina, and and having more and more sightings of whales that we wouldn't have had that information in the past.
And there's so many more of them now than there were 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm Taylor. I'm from Vancouver, Washington. My question is mostly for Monika. And I know your thesis had to do with call repertoire change in southern resident killer whales. Do you have any predictions for what their call repertoire might look like in the future compared to when you did your thesis and from the original studies?
Another really good question. I suspect their call repertoire will be pretty similar. We don't have a lot of evidence of call types being added or being dropped over the last 50 years or so I wouldn't expect we would see that in the next 50 years, but there's potentially some shifts in how frequent different call types have become. It's actually one of the research questions that I would love to kind of circle back to at some point and look at that, because anecdotally, as I've been listening to them, I'm like, wow, we didn't used to hear this call type quite as much as we used to. And I think there are probably some subtle shifts there. But again, combining that with sort of the drone perspective will maybe give us a little more insight into what that means. It's kind of one thing to see that there are some acoustic changes happening, but putting that into a behavioral context will be the really exciting step to maybe go with that.
Yeah, I think there's an interesting question there around, like, are they using different calls to say the same things? So is their repertoire just changing without a change of behavior, or is a repertoire changing because the underlying behavior is different, and so naturally you're having different kinds of conversations, so you're using different calls? It's does the vocabulary change, or does the context in which the vocabulary gets used change? It's it's an interesting idea.
A question that you often ask your guests is, what is a favorite whale moment, or what comes to mind first when you think of like a really exceptional whale moment? And then also, who are your least favorite whales and why?
T37A4, just because it makes Alex very angry when I say that. A memorable whale moment. I have so many. T46B4. I was just telling the story earlier today. I had a trip a few years ago. One evening, we were the only boat on scene up near Barnes and Clark, and they had killed a seal and were prey sharing. We were shut down, and a private boater kind of came in really fast and didn't know the whales were there, so I stuck the flag out the window and flagged him down. And this is potentially complete coincidence, but as soon as I flagged the boat down and it stopped and moved out of the area around the whales, T46B4 came right up to the window where I had the flag out and dropped a big chunk of seal meat right at the tube of the boat, and then looked up, and I didn't take it because I'm a jerk. So he grabbed the piece of meat and he swam under the other side of the boat and dropped it out the window on the other side and rolled over and looked upside down. And then I still didn't take it because I'm a jerk, and he grabbed it and swam back over to his family. But it was a really interesting moment, and one that sticks with me.
I need more time to consider my least favorite whale.
My least favorite whale is the pygmy right whale. You fools! You thought I meant individuals? You absolute fools.
This is why I waited. I knew there was a twist.
Magic whale moments.
Why the pygmy right whale?
Why the pygmy right whale? That's too small. It's not hard. You just come up with a reason to not like something. It's not liking something is the easiest thing in the world. Really loving something is difficult. Not liking something, so easy. Oh man,
You're having a hard time thinking of a memorable whale moment?
I'm having a hard time thinking of just one memorable whale moment. One I had recently, and again, I'm operating under the assumption that this podcast is going to come out in like 3 weeks.
Yes.
Okay. We have a paper coming out within that time. It'll be out by the time this podcast is out. Looking at this new behavior we've seen Southern residents doing, which is using kelp as a grooming tool, where they'll actually break off a length of 2 feet of bull kelp and rub it between each other, probably to rub some dead skin off, maybe some other benefits. But the whale moment I have is on June 19th last year, we had seen J19 and J51 doing this behavior for about 15 minutes. And it was the first time we'd really noted it. And I was like, that's so cool. I hope we see it again this summer. The next time we were out with Southern residents, we had the J19s again. But I think it was because of visibility, we couldn't get the drone in the air. We weren't able to fly. But we had them around. And J58 swam by under the boat with kelp trailing from her mouth, and I watched her go by, and then J41 comes up with a length of kelp in her mouth, spy hopping, and it was just smelling like, y'all are mocking me right now. You are doing the behavior I've been desperate to see again when I don't have the drone in the air, and you're showing me. You're showing me that that's what you're doing. And I got that picture of J41 spy hopping, and I kind of, anytime I want to feel really bad, I look at that picture.
What day was that encounter?
I think that was, probably the 24th of June. It was like a week later, yeah.
I love that.
It was great. It was a good day. I enjoyed it.
Well, thank you for giving me an out, Michael. My least favorite whale is the sperm whale.
J'accuse. Head too big?
Well, because I've never seen one. So
I've never seen
they don't
right whale.
They don't like me. I don't like them. Most memorable whale moment. The first one that always comes to mind was back in the summer of 2005. Back when the L12 subgroup of Southern residents used to just be almost fixtures out there doing the West Side Shuffle. And it was an evening. There weren't very many people on the shoreline out at Limekiln, and the majority of the group was maybe half a mile offshore. And suddenly, as the whales were coming south in Harrow Strait, one individual broke off from that group and came over right to the one place along that stretch of shoreline where there were people on shore, and wrapped itself in kelp and started vocalizing into the air and stopped there. And it was probably, it felt like a long time, but it was probably 2 or 3 minutes where this whale was just vocalizing into the air. And I don't often think they're interested in what we're doing, but that so strongly felt like a moment that whale was trying to tell us something or communicate that there was some type of mutual interaction where it came to the one place on the shoreline where there were people and was vocalizing not underwater, but with its head above the surface for so long and making these repeated vocalizations in the air. And later on, we were able to determine by matching the eye patch that it was L85, who appropriately named Mystery. And I remember talking to my kind of mentor at the time, Rich Osborne, and he said, hold on to those moments because they could be like Rosetta Stones one day in, gaining some insight into how these whales communicate. And so I have not experienced anything like that since then. It's something I still reflect on a lot as to what could have driven that behavior. And if it wasn't about us, why was it happening right there and that kind of thing. But that was probably one of the most magical and most mysterious killer whale moments that I've had.
So, all right, I'll start with my least favorite. Right now, Matroline is the 34s and 37s, which I know is not going to be a popular answer. But I had an encounter 2 seasons, maybe this was last season. I can't remember.
Tell me and I'll tell you. No.
So, I was running a tour. Whales were found late in the tour. So when that happens, you get a big group of boats that goes because everybody's at the end of their tour. And then another group of whales was found a little bit further away, and I decided I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to extend our tour, and I'll go to the group that doesn't have many boats. And it was the 34s and 37s. And as I got on scene, they fanned out so that each one of them was separated by like half a mile, and they were doing 9-minute dives.
This was last season.
And I took it very personally.
That actually kind of tracks for the 34s and 37s in general.
That's their vibe, yeah.
Yeah. I had never had that experience before, and it took hours for the frustration to.
No, it took more than hours, Jeff. You were ranting about it for a long time.
Sounds like it's still there.
Yeah,
it is a little bit.
Is that simultaneously your least favorite whales and memorable whale moment?
It's clearly memorable. For sure, my most memorable and favorite whale is A61 Northern Resident, who I think I've talked about this a little bit, but maybe not in the detail. Encountered him up in Johnstone Strait in 2009 on a kayaking trip that I went on because it was the first time I had ever seen wild killer whales, and that's why I was there. And had a very close encounter with him swimming around the kayak. And in the course of probably 2 seconds, in my brain, I was thinking, I need to experience this more than just right now. I'm going to come back and do this every summer. And then I'm thinking, well, it's not going to be every summer because things are going to get in the way, like work or family events, whatever. It's not going to be every year. Let's say it's every 2 to 3 years. How many more times am I going to be able to do this then? And then I'm like, well, that's not going to be enough. And in those 2 seconds and in that thought process, like my brain chemistry permanently changed, and like I became all about killer whales, and that changed the trajectory of my life. And the cool follow-up, Monika, you have to plug your ears for this part.
I can't. I have headphones.
So a year and a half ago, not quite a year and a half ago, we were out in February, and there was a group of Northern residents.
Unplugging my ears now.
And Monika was not on the boat that day, and we were all really bummed out. But we went up to a little bit north of Vancouver and saw the group of Northern residents, and he was in there. And I had not seen him since that encounter in 2009. And it was really cool. Sarah came up to the helm, and she said, I got the helm. Go say hi to your boy. And it was really cool to see him because I was looking at him thinking, like, look at what I've done with my life because of that individual whale. And I think it's so cool that these animals can have that kind of an impact on us, and they have no clue. But it's such an amazing thing to think about. And I don't see how I could ever have a whale that would displace him as my favorite.
He's a good favorite.
Yeah.
He arches every time. He arches every single time.
Rebecca again from Port Townsend. This is actually not my question. I'm asking it on behalf of somebody else.
Oh, no.
We were curious if you'd be willing to do your best vocalization impression.
Yes, Monika, you have to. I have been trying to get Monika to do a vocalization impression in public and on recording for, I think, about a year now.
I thought you were going to say 10 years. First of all, are we doing residents or transients?
I'm not doing either.
It's for everybody, right? It's for all four. It's for everyone. Yeah.
I think you have to be part of Obi to do it.
I hate to submit my resignation from the board.
Tonight, here. Effective immediately. Well, we're all doing one, let's be clear.
And I've got one in the tank.
Yeah.
Is it a resident or transient?
Wee-oo. That's a Northern resident right there.
I'm a 30-something-year-old white man. You don't think I'm ready to do an impression at a moment's notice?
He always is.
Let's hear it.
Yeah.
No, I can't. I don't even have one. I can do a California sea lion to save my life.
All right.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. While we were all talking, this is not related to the question. Someone blew just the biggest vape cloud right out there, and I swear to God, I thought there was a whale in the harbor.
They came to hear our impressions.
We called him in.
All right. If you do a Biggs, I'll do a Biggs.
I don't think I can do a Biggs.
You're a 30-something-year-old white man. Let's go.
No, I don't think I have it in me.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. T-46D flashbacks.
Well, we always joke that one is them going, seal, kill.
Dave always talks about the ones up, like, I think Biggs up in Alaska going like, my kill.
Can't top that. That's a wrap.
Are we good?
Any more questions?
All right. You guys, thank you so much for coming out.
Thanks for being our first live audience celebrating OB's 10th anniversary. Thanks for your great questions.
I have a feeling you guys are going to have more live podcast recordings because this is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
Let's fill up the community theater next time.
God.
I'm in.
All right. After a couple drinks, sure.
All right, well, let's go get some.
All right, thanks, guys.
That's really how you're going to end it?
Wait, don't you have a thing you have to say at the end?
No, well, we have it pre-recorded.
Oh, yeah.
We have it pre-recorded. Go for it, Jeff. Wrap it up for us.
Whatever you do, stay safe out there. Oh, yeah.